Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Strike the Blood, episode 13. And in this episode, it's a lot. Well, stuff happens, but like not kind. Yeah, it's building up another arc pretty much. Like, the first episode of a new arc, it always does this kind of thing where it's kind of slow, but at the same time, it introduces a lot of concepts, a lot of things for the arc. And in the beginning of this episode, we're introduced to the Halloween Festa, which is the party, the festival that is going to be the main focus. Um, and the first time we hear about it is when Sayaka and LaFolia are talking. LaFolia has her flight back to Algier, but she hears about the festival and she wants to join in, but then she decides, no, it's best. I put this off for long enough, so it's best that I go home and not postpone my arrival again, my return, for like the third time, I think. So she decides to go on the plane. However, as they're entering the gate, or whatever, they actually get warped away. They get warped out of the airport and to the subfloat, which is on the other side of the island where everyone fought Christoph Gardos, right? So, yeah, they warped, which is a new concept in this series, warping. I guess it's a type of magic or something. That's what I would assume, but who knows? Um, Apparently, this happens every single time they go through a door, which becomes relevant later on because we see Kojo getting nervous. He says he gets nervous whenever he opens a door because he ends up getting warped as well. Uh, though I can't, if I were him, I wouldn't exactly complain about that exact instance of being warped since he warped right into canon, but and Astarte, but I'm not a Lalakan, so I didn't really care about the point is that Kojo got warped at some point too. But yeah, Lafolia ends up calling Kojo to alert him to the fact that there's this warping kind of situation going on. So he kind of has an idea of what exactly happened to him. Him and Himeragi were talking about it for a little bit as well. But after this whole incident with Sayaka and Lafolia warping, we actually see Kojo and Himeragi. They're on a train on their way somewhere. I don't really know where they were going. I would assume school, but who knows? Because school isn't. I don't think school was in session at the time. Because oh no, I don't think so. Because we see Natsuki. Well, when they're on the train, they see Kojo and Himeragi see. Actually, they see Natsuki in this middle school uniform. They don't. Kojo, at the very least, doesn't know it's her right off the bat. But there's this guy trying to molest her because for some reason in Japan this kind of thing happens all the time. Like I can't even count the amount of times I've seen this in anime and manga. Apparently, well, I guess it's just Japan in general. Whether it's on trains or whether it's delinquents walking down the street trying to pick up girls who are half their age, who are like in elementary school and middle school and like I see that is Japan just full of perverts? Like I don't get it. Why is this so cliche? Whatever. They see some guy trying to molest Natsuki pretty much, and Kojo goes after him, but he ends up being caught instead, and he he's confused for the molester by Sasasaki, who is a teacher, specifically Nagisa and Himeragi's homeroom teacher, probably canon too. But yeah, we get introduced to her, and she's kind of interesting. I like her character design. I like all the character designs in Strike the Blood, but I thought it was interesting that she was wearing this traditional Chinese attire. Um, I guess the teachers don't have a uniform because Natsuki kind of wears whatever she wants to. She wears that black dress. So I guess it's just whatever you want. I would think that there would be some limits to what you can wear, but apparently not. If she's going to school, well, not necessarily going to school, but wearing a Chinese traditional attire. But yeah, Natsuki shows up saying she actually got the perp, so that's good. And she ends up telling Kojo something. She tells him that the Halloween Festa is coming up. Then she does this like this head motion, and then she says, I guess I'm assuming that was her real message to him, that the Halloween Festa is coming up and he should be on his toes because something's probably going to happen there. Um, but to cover up the message, I guess the code she ends up adding to the end that classes start up after the weekend, and she doesn't be on time. So, which is why I'm thinking they weren't actually on their way to school, but it's not really that big of a deal. One thing that they were talking about on the train was the origin of Halloween Festa, and they end up bringing up the idea of spirits and witches, which is very apropos and fitting. And it's pretty much just foreshadowing for later on in the episode because right after this, we meet the Meyer sisters, aka the Witches of Ashdown. And apparently they were at Utagami Island 10 years ago at some point. They probably caused some mischief back then too, and then they had to leave for some reason. I don't know whether that incident will be. Uh, I don't know if we'll actually learn about that incident in this arc or ever, but yeah, they were there 10 years ago. And we learned from these security guys that they're employed by this group called LCO, aka the Library. So this is yet another another group. I swear, if they actually do an arc that involves all of these different groups that they've introduced, that would be an incredible arc. It really would. It'd be like the Dressrosa arc right now in One Piece with all these different sides and everything. That would be really legit and an incredible arc. Hopefully it gets hopefully we get enough seasons to actually reach that point. If the light novels even get to that point. Hopefully they better. I don't know what's the point of introducing all these groups if nothing's going to happen. Index had a war, which I haven't read since I've only seen the anime, but still, you know, they have to do something with all these groups. But I'm going off topic now. Um, these two witches, they take out those security guys with this this familiar that's just has a bunch of tentacles. I would assume an octopus or a squid or something like that. Right? They take them all out, and they know. Well, I don't know if they know Natsuki, but they know of her at the very least. They know of her, which I mean, she's famous, so it's not surprising. But yeah, which ends up becoming relevant later on because in this episode, Astarte shows up and says Natsuki is missing, which probably has something to do with the Witches of Ashdown. So there's that. But before we even get to that point, we're introduced to Yuuma, a childhood friend of Kojo, which you know, childhood friend in a harem series. I'm just saying, it was clear from the get-go that this girl was going to be in the harem. Just saying. There was some doubt about whether she was a girl, but I mean, it's a harem series. So, I mean, this is not exactly a revolutionary concept to have a reverse trap. But, you know, whatever. She shows up. She just jumps off the railing as Kojo catch her, which caught me off guard. You, she's lucky that he actually caught her. How would he even catch her? That takes a lot of strength for a high school. Well, never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Um, but yeah, she is in fact a girl. She's obviously in the harem from what happens at the end of the episode. And before we even get to that point, they just go to a bunch of places. They were at a museum, a cafe, a bunch of different places. And and Yuma ends up asking Kojo if he's dating Himeragi, and he says no. So she confirmed that she could make her move. And at this point, we get a couple of calls. This is when Lafolia calls Kojo. It's also when Asagi gets a call from Mogwai. And Yaze gets a call from somebody too. And what Asagi learns from Mogwai is something about a Class 3 district defense system, which I would assume has to do with the Witches of Ashdown and what they did. Probably something they're going to have to activate because of those two being there. Or maybe some other threats. Yaze is probably going to have to do something to deal with them as well. But those two end up leaving. And this is when Astarte shows up, says that Natsuki is missing. And she says that in situations like this, her orders are to guard Cannon and make sure she's safe. So the two of them, Astarte and Cannon, go to Himeragi's room. They stay with her so she can protect both of them, really. Astarte can fight, but yeah. But yeah, yeah. And then we go to Kojo's house. Yuuma mentions at some point that he and Himeragi smell the same sometimes, which is due to the fact that Kojo has sucked Himeragi's blood, and she is the medium for 1.5 of his familiars. And the fact that she can sense that connection that they have pretty much means she's not human. All right. And we get confirmation of that later because after he gets teleported, he gets back to his room and everything. Yuma scares him by coming up behind him. He cuts his finger on glass, blah, blah, blah. She goes to fix up the cut and everything. And she kind of just asks him how he feels about her. And then she follows that up with, how would you feel about me if I wasn't human anymore? And Kojo says, hey, I've got a lot of friends who aren't human. It doesn't matter to me. And that's when she confirms that he is the only one for her. She confirms her feelings for him, that it pretty much confirms that she's not human. It confirms that she's going to be in the harem because, as a matter of fact, she goes and kisses him after this. And when she kisses him, we can see a suit of armor floating behind her on some magical warfare type of crap. So the new anime, yeah, the new anime magical warfare, yeah. So yeah, we see that suit of armor. So again, confirmation she's not human. Confirmation that she's joined the harem, that she has feelings for Kojo. Plus, she's going to be pretty involved in this arc. So, yeah, and it's going to be interesting because she actually pulled some Yamada type of graph right here. She swapped bodies with him. So right now, Kojo is trapped inside of her body. And we can tell from the preview that he ends up running into Asagi when she's changing or something like that, but she doesn't notice that because he's in Yuma's body, so she doesn't think anything of it. But yeah, I mean that's really it for the episode. A lot of stuff happened. Yuuma, the Witches of Ashdown, the Meyer sisters, Natsuki, the introduction of Sasasaki. Yeah, a lot of stuff happened. So I'll give this episode an 8.5 out of 10 because it wasn't quite great, but it was still really good and it introduced a bunch of stuff to start the arc off. So yeah, oh, and all the warping stuff too. So yeah, but that's it, you guys. This episode gets an 8.5 out of 10. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.